Okay, for every fan of Big Finish's audio dramas, there comes a very important time in their listening experience. And for me, that week is this week. And that is when you are finally caught up on their massive backlog. Yes, I have spent numerous years listening to all of their audio dramas. Way more than it should be. I spent years in waiting for every sale possible to be able to listen to them. And there's only one way I can really think to celebrate, and that is I'm going to make a cake. Because you can't stop me. I've earned this. Alright, so I'm just gonna make a cake and then talk some Big Finish. Okay, so there's really only one take going to be possible for this, so yeah, let's not hear this. I'm recording it. Unless it's going to be that's a good thing. I'm sure. Alright, so let's get going. There we go. One, and the two, and the three. Nope. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello! So, it's been a while, but the cake is made, the cake is decorated, and I'm just gonna talk about Doctor Who stuff, especially audio drama stuff, while I eat this cake. So, let me start with that. So anyway, when I say that I'm starting by celebrating finishing listening to everything, what I mean is anything that was released this week, which I'm recording this ahead of time. The only thing that has come out this week is a Fourth Doctor box set, but that's it. That's it from the backlog of things I want to see, and it is multiple years in the making. Like, I think I've been listening for, like, close to a decade now, it feels like. It does not feel real to say that. I've loved these audio dramas, and now that I've started with this, and I was already gonna make a cake just to celebrate this, I thought, why not just make a video and talk about different things about this? So I got started listening to audios because I liked the Eighth Doctor. I had at least liked him in the Eighth Doctor movie and wanted to see more, and heard about the audio dramas and was very confused about where to begin because there was stuff in what was then called the monthly, like, main range, then became the monthly range, I think. And I came across Stu Bagful's video series that he made, and those were excellent videos, breaking down the Eighth Doctor run, especially putting a kind of continuity onto it to help make this less impenetrable as a new viewer. So I was incredibly grateful for those videos to help me get a grip on a Doctor I was very intrigued to see, because Big Finish is great, but it is not directly intuitive where to start, or even the order everything was released in. And so you kind of just gotta learn what the ranges are and start in on that. Ever since then, I just was wanting to see this, and I did, and I got into the spin-offs, lots of the spin-offs, and yeah, so here we are. Good cake. So I had originally thought about doing like what's your favorite this, that, and I'm like, no, let's just talk about a bunch of audio dramas. So I wrote them down here in order because I have a bunch of the CDs right off screen, but not all of them, so yeah, here we go. So I will answer some of those, but like, what was the first audio drama? Storm Warning. First Eighth Doctor audio, I still really enjoy this. It's definitely a start to everything, but it still really works. I enjoy it. I'd like to return to this one. It's really good. It sounds good. I wish I had it on CD, but lots of people want that one. Next question is going to be, what was the last audio I listened to? That would be Dark Gallifrey Missy number 2. I still don't fully get what's going on with Dark Gallifrey. I have stuff with it, so I'm going to keep listening to it, but as a conceptual range, I simply don't get it at this point. But, you know, we will see what happens. So as far as looking back at different audios, I'm going to kind of give an overview of these generally, but I'm going to try to avoid spoilers if I can. So yeah, it's just going to basically be me going, here's this, it's great, listen to it. So first one I have here is The Sirens of Time, Where It Started. This one is, there are things where like you can say Storm Warning is very much a pilot and it knows that. This one is just, it works as an opening statement for the Big Finish range of Doctor Who by having 3 doctors in it. It's not my favorite of this. I did seek out the original CD because by the time I had gotten into these, the first 50 monthly ranges were out of print. So I don't have most of them. I have some. It's why I don't have a complete CD collection. But Sirens of Time, it works functionally as a start to this by giving an episode to each Doctor and then combining them together as a, here's the Doctors we have, we're making Doctor Who. So it works, generally speaking. It's not a favorite, but it does work. Then we have The Redux, which recently came out, which re-edits mainly those first 3 parts to be its own thing. Hold on. Victory Cake is the best. But it re-edits those and works out different cliffhangers of stuff, and I like it. It's good. I don't think it's as good as the original, surprisingly, but as an experiment and a thing to celebrate all the years later of Big Finish as a thing, this really good concept executed pretty well. I'm now going to talk about a very special audio for me, and that is the Classic Doctor New Monsters sets. This one I did not get at first when it had come out, but I really enjoyed this set. Between the 2 I'm going to talk about, this one is my favorite. It just has such good stuff with especially the Sontaran ordeal and Jadudin Chains. Fallen Angels is great too. I just don't think Harvest of the Sycorax is quite as good, but still, very strong box set. Volume 2, this was the very first audio drama I pre-ordered. I was so happy to pre-order it and just wait and see, okay, how's this work? And it just showed up in my downloads. I was very happy with this. This, very good to get. Like I said, I like the first box set better, but this, the Vashta Narada, and the Narada Vashta, as they are in one episode, really good. This is a still good box set. I still enjoy the Classic Doctor New Monsters sets. I'm just going to eat a little bit and cut this out. So my next set of, this is just kind of some audios that are kind of special to me in different ways. The next set of audios is just random monthly range stories that I like vaguely in number order. They're not exact for reasons. But starting with Robert Shearman stuff. So good. This, I just love Frobisher in general. I'm sad that this is really the only full story we have. Yes, there's also the Maltese Penguin, but this is so good. This is nice. This is such a vivid, different world, and it just works really well. I enjoy this. This kind of stuff's great. Speaking of Robert Shearman, Jubilee, even better. And I know people say this was the basis for the Ninth Doctor story, Dalek. There's one scene that I can really see that with. Otherwise, yeah, this doesn't line up with it. But showing an alternate version of the world that has treated the Daleks the way we in society have treated the Nazis, as a way of showing what we are and things, is both important and highly prescient as a American in 2025. I need to re-listen to this. Really good. Fanfare for the Common Men. God. Was this a bad idea? Maybe. Fanfare for the Common Men. I really enjoy this story. This is my favorite of the 1963 trilogy from the 50th anniversary. And doing a thing talking about fame through the vector of the Beatles by not using the Beatles, honestly, really clever. Okay, my promise to not talk about spoilers is really hard with this one because the ending in particular is something I really want to talk about, but I'm not going to. Just get this one and listen to it. I really like it as a perspective on fame and what it is and what it does. Breaking Bubbles and Other Stories. Part of why I reject doing a favorite story, not favorite, is there's so few. It's hard for me to say something is my favorite because everything is in a different genre, different tone, different voice, everything. When it comes to a favorite, it's hard for me to say that because it's very much mood-based for me. So I don't often say something is my favorite. It's very difficult to, just because it's a hard question for me to wrap my head around. This contains my favorite Sixth Doctor story. It is The Curious Incident of the Doctor in the Nighttime. That story is so special to me. I don't really want to fully talk about it at this point. If you're familiar with what it's loosely based on, I forget what it's called right now. But it's very loosely based. Like, it's basically just taking the lead character from that and doing a story with that. And starting with the character, recognizing that 1 out of over 100 garden gnomes is missing. That kicks off the story. This story in particular has done such good job with perspective and explaining how tone doesn't carry through. Just, I didn't fully realize. I knew when I picked this out I'd be talking about this. This story is really good at capturing autistic perspective. That's all I really have to say. It's good. Plate's a mess now. Next one is 3. The Two Masters trilogy. Boy, is this hard to talk about. But getting the Jeffrey Beavers Master and the Alex McQueen Master in a story together before the television series does a Two Masters thing, this is excellent. I really love this. The ending of the last one is slightly cheap, but generally I enjoy the journey on this one, and these two are great fun as well. Just the whole trilogy together is great. Next, The Blood on Santa's Claw. A really good anthology with a bunch of different stories that all work really well, and I really like the journey this one goes on especially. This is nice. Okay, and back to Robert Shearman with Scherzo, Scherzo. I forgot to look up how to pronounce this again. Just another excellent story, especially after Zagreus, which is an interesting story. It does not make my favorites list just because it is ever so slightly too big for what it is. This story generally works, I think. It just, so much good stuff here, an interesting thing. And it's just a cast of 2 people over 2 hours. It works so well, and I like some stuff here. I just cannot get into it without spoilers. Listen to Zagreus first, and before that, listen to all of the 8th Doctor's adventures before that in the monthly range first. But this is great. Live 34. Such a fascinating concept. I wish more stories did things like this as we go on, because this is a actual fictional broadcast. It's such a fun way of doing things, and this works really well. I need to listen to this one again as well. This is just nice. Just a fascinating story, and great world building in this one too, especially. The Hunting Ground. It's not my favorite story I've heard from the monthly range, but it is very important to me because it was the last monthly range story I listened to. I bought these very random whenever sales would come up, and when I was nearing the end, I'm like, ooh, let's make Sixth Doctor the last one. So I listened to that one. I enjoy the first half a lot more than the second half because it's just a fun little detective story that goes off a bit, but still pretty nice story. I enjoyed this. The End of the Beginning. It was so good to have Paul McGann back in the range. This, honestly, I couldn't tell you much about this one off of memory, but the last of the monthly range I think is also really important. This is one of 2 stories. I forgot to mention with Blood of Santa's Claw that I have the alternate art up with that as well, but This I use the alternate art, especially because it's just such good art, especially for this and using it as a retro thing to their beginnings. I remember the accomplishments more than the story, but it's just good to get all the Doctors back again, especially getting 4 this time instead of 3. That makes it interesting and worth talking about. I knew this would be a bit long, but I'll admit I did not think it would be this long. Now on to Doctor stories that aren't in the monthly range. So like they're individual ranges or ranges that are about them. So I'm going to start this off with the Ninth Doctor Chronicles. Come at me! People do not like this box set. Nicholas Briggs does not do the best Ninth Doctor, but he does not terrible at it, I think. But it's the stories themselves I really love. This, filling in the interesting little gaps where you can, and getting one actor in to tell a needed in-betweener before working with him was bad. So, I like the gap filling. Honestly, the more I look back, Jackie getting in with a MLM type thing with, I forget what it was, just works so well. This was also our first pre-Rose Ninth Doctor story, and I really, I just like that concept, but overall, I like this box set. I don't care what you think. New slice of cake. Fourth Doctor Adventures. The Paradox Planet and the Legacy of Death. The Fourth Doctor Adventures, for some reason, when it was individual CDs and not the box sets like it is now, would release 4-parters as 2 different releases and give them different names. So these are two-parters. I didn't fully realize that when I bought Paradox Planet. Just the name, The Paradox Planet, is such intriguing. It captures you. I really like this. So I got this, and I listened to it on its own, and I waited for that cliffhanger, and I waited and waited for this one to come on sale. And when it finally did, I bought it, and then re-listened to this, and listened to this, and such a good story. I think part of why I really remember this one is just the absolute long gap between listening to parts. This was good. This is one of my favorites from Fourth Doctor. The Trouble with Drax. Fourth Doctor's friend from a different Fourth Doctor story on TV is in a new incarnation and comes to him saying, I need help. I've gotten myself into a jam, need help. Get this. This is a real fun time, and I absolutely love Drax in this. It's just so much fun. So, now onto some ones I don't have here. More from the Doctor Chronicles range. The 11th Doctor and Valerie stories. They're all great. I love this run. It's super well done. I especially love the Cyberman story. Just good stuff. Get this range. It's such good stuff. And Jacob Dudman does a absolute pitch perfect 11th Doctor. This one. Let's dust that. This one sits on presentation. The Last Adventure. This is one that I knew I wanted to get in this cool slipcase set. This is just super good. I really enjoy the stories in here, and that art, just perfect. So much of this gives a really good run for the 6th Doctor. I think the only thing I don't like is that it is 1-hour episodes, because it slightly draws attention to the fact that this is being released years afterwards, which I get, because it is happening, but I would have liked a multi-part story rather than 4 1-hour episodes. But still, these stories, really good, and they connect together in an interesting way by bringing some more closure to the Valeyard, which I really enjoyed. And this was also my introduction to Jago and Lightfoot. So, excellent stuff. Need more cake. Another box set that I do not have. The Quinn Dilemma. Of the 2 6th Doctor 40th anniversary stories, this one is my favorite. This is just really fun, and the structure of it works really well. Because it's both a 6-parter and a bunch of and a bunch of little stories. It just works really well structurally and narratively, I think, by showing multiple versions of the Sixth Doctor, one who has a lot of variation now, especially mostly because of Big Finish, but it's all the better for it, and this one works really well. Quick shout out to this piece of fan art for the sequel one, whose name I can't remember. That's a completely different story that I don't like as much, but this cover art's really good. Back to the Eighth Doctor. Dark Eyes. Really good, fun set. The sequels I have varying thoughts on. They're generally pretty good, but slightly bumpy just because of the narrative thing of this was supposed to just be one box set. And it's a very strong box set, but I see why it became what it was. Yeah, good stuff. I don't need to have a ton to say all the time. Sometimes it's just, yeah, it's good. Stranded. I've heard lots of mixed things on this, but I'm pretty positive on this one. It works very well, I think. You have the Eighth Doctor just stuck on Earth after everything. I think part of why I like this is the previous range, Ravenous, for the Eighth Doctor, I didn't enjoy as much. I didn't get as behind the ravenous creatures as the writers wanted me to. And that's definitely a me thing. But going from that to more simple in a way and not as interconnected, they got more connected as they went. But I really enjoyed this. I also really enjoyed the return of the Curator. Both of them. This, really good. I was there the day the Big Finish website crashed as they announced who they had gotten. The Ninth Doctor is one of my favorite incarnations. This is one of the very few ranges that from the start I bought the CDs for. I especially have them bought for the new series coming out with Ninth Doctor and Rose again. Really looking forward to that. Going to be so good. So, very happy to get Ninth Doctor stories. They're surprisingly not my favorite, especially considering how much I love his TV incarnation. But anything more with Chris Eccleston playing the Doctor is good in my book. And, well, of the box sets, this one is not my favorite. This cover art just really special to me because it's more Ninth Doctor stuff. It's so good. I'm now going to show you my favorite Ninth Doctor story on audio. And that is Auld Lang Syne. I just love the family in this one. The Ninth Doctor isn't as integral to it, but it's such a nice story. I think it works really well. This is just nice. You don't often have things you want to listen to on New Year's, and I've listened to this on several New Year's eves and days. The song Auld Lang Syne it's one of those things that, at least for me, they just play at New Year's, but this really captures the themes of the song as I've read them since then, and I think works very well. It's a nice story. Now for a very different slice of who. Shada. This was my first exposure to Shada. I really like it. Like, the Eighth Doctor is slightly odd in this, but that's just because he's doing Fourth Doctor lines. And even though I know if they'd had Tom Baker at the point where they did this, they would have just used him, I honestly kind of like the strangeness of this story. It's just them revisiting the story and also telling it for the first time at once. It makes for a really nice thing. And also the disc art is just really nice in here. And I think the story works really well on audio. Like, even though we do now have the DVD version, of Shada, like both versions, I think this one is my favorite, partially because this is just my first exposure to it. It's really nice. And now for a story more akin for its notability once again, but getting the 4th and 10th Doctors together was just an absolutely needed thing to do. And they work together really well. This is nice. And I don't always pay complete attention to the covers, but having classic Daleks and modern Daleks, really nice touch. And just, it's the 4th Doctor, it's the 10th Doctor, it's Daleks, what else do you need? Then we have Only the Monstrous. Again, this one I think is more notable for it being first rather than being best, but I enjoy John Hurt's take. This really captured me on this, and I really enjoyed this viewing of his incarnation. Even though he wasn't as villainous as what the 9th and 10th Doctors had described, slightly unintentionally, but you know what I mean. It's still really good, and he captures a spirit of the Doctor that is still a bit different from other incarnations. We have Once and Future. Yes, I bought the special editions of these. And yes, I had to go through multiple things on the sleeves on this. It honestly worth its own video at some point much further down the line. Even though people are very mixed on this, I think part of what is getting people mixed on this is the fact that they said they spent 6 years on it. Yeah, is slightly disappointing to know they spent 6 years and just got, okay, the Doctor shuffles themselves. Honestly, it kind of works. It's its own texture and flavor to a different range. And I enjoyed this. This, to me, was much more about the journey rather than the destination. But the journey was a pretty fun one, and having the Doctor shift between multiple incarnations was a fun twist on the anniversary special. So, yeah, I do like this. Let's see if I can get this out real quick. Come on, you can do it. I do slightly prefer the actual disc case's art above the foil that they ended up with on here, just because this actually looks like a diamond for the diamond anniversary. But it still works, I think. But, yeah, this is all nice. Alright, I'm gonna go get another slice of cake while I check the camera and adjust my sets in the background. And I'm sure there's gonna be people going, "You're eating too much cake." To which I say... So anyway, on to special releases. Which technically this one falls into, but whatever. We have The Light at the End. Such a fun story. I really enjoyed this. The 50th anniversary was really good, and getting just as many doctors and companions in as possible really worked. I liked this. This was nice. This is a fun 2-hour story you can just sit down and enjoy, and I think it works. Not much else to say. Good story. Masterful. Another story more notable for what it is rather than the story it is. This incarnation of the Master here, Milo Parker's, still baffles me, but not really enough to comment on it further than that. John Sim is a bit fun in this. He's still not my favorite incarnation of the Master, but getting Missy, the Unbound Master, as well, all really good. And getting stuff... This was some of the first uses of the Ainley and Delgado Masters, and why can't I remember his name? Anyway, the Impressionist, whose name is John Coleshaw. John Coleshaw does a great job doing the Ainley and Delgado Masters. Just so good. I'm glad they're starting to use him for that more. Great stuff. I'm getting caved in here. The Legacy of Time. Celebrating the 20th anniversary of Big Finish stuff. This, really nice. I enjoyed this. This is one of the few audios that I ever had them skip the line. Like, when I was preparing stuff to listen to, I basically wrote out in an Excel spreadsheet what it was in rough order of when I bought them, so that I would be sure to listen to them all because I didn't want to get too excited by future stuff. This jumped to the line, and broadly, I enjoyed it. That's really nice. The only thing I don't like about both this and Masterful is that the box set nature of it is less good than the others. Like, I showed the book aspect of The Light at the End, which I think really is nice. This, bit less so, but still impressive. Impressively sized. Kind of sad they stopped doing these, but at the same time, I know CD sales are down, so I get it. On to spin-offs. So, we cannot talk about the spin-offs without starting with the First Lady of Big Finish, Bernice Summerfield. This one is just mainly the first one, Oh No It Isn't, which I actually bought these about a year before they started getting the download rights to these back. You know, I'm glad to have this collection at least. This is one of the very few ranges I have complete CDs for. Aside from buried treasures. Why must that be so painful to get? I'm never going to get it, and I have an otherwise complete collection. I'm gonna eat some cake. Yes, I like Pringles. That's why the cup is this. Anyway, the Bernice Summerfield range is really good. Slightly confusing that they integrated books along with the audios, but whatever. This is a good range. And the important books, at least, from what I can tell, are on audiobooks now, so that's good. But this really excellent fun start to the range. Hearing Nicholas Courtney play a cat is wonderfully ridiculous. I'm glad everyone had a lot of fun with this. This is nice. I picked this one mainly for the box art, but once they got Bernice Summerfield paired up with David Warner for the audios, there was a magic to this casting here. And just the ability to go, hey, that Unbound doctor we cast a while ago, let's put him with Lisa Bowerman. Wonderful. They're so good together, and I enjoyed all of these. Like, even when there were some where I didn't enjoy the story as much, but I loved them. They were fantastic. This is an excellent range. The Diary of River Song. This is an excellent range that works really well. It grew a lot. It was fun while they were having her meet all the different incarnations of the Doctor. And once they had her on her own after they had done all of that, it took a little bit to find their footing completely, but Friend of the Family absolutely perfected this. This is a perfect audio. I love everything about this. I love the narrative. I love the themes. This works really well. It's just so good. I love the journey everyone goes on. I love the narrative of how it all works. This is just so good. Get this. Again, just like the Trouble with Drax, get this. This is more important than the Trouble with Drax. Get it. Gallifrey. This is a series that I almost like Bernice Summerfield got entirely on CD, but for some reason I didn't. I think these started coming out on audio drama very quickly, whereas the Bernice Summerfield ones didn't, so I eventually caved and got those, but the Gallifrey audios, oh my word, they're great. This actually isn't my favorite of the Gallifrey. I much prefer the first era of it. The second era where they got into box sets, also very good. This, also enjoyable. First era on single CDs, absolutely sublime. That is just a serialized drama across all of them, and I couldn't tell you where one series ended and one began, but it is beautiful. It is just such a good range. It was great to see every character grow, especially Narvin, who is a side character that grew up to be on equal with the main characters without taking away from either of them. And that's great. I love Narvin. I love whenever he pops up. He is great. I talked about them earlier. How could I not mention Jago and Lightfoot? This is another one of those audios where it's just the pairing works so well. I enjoy Jago and Lightfoot's dynamics. They're both great. Yeah, just anytime you can get a Jago and Lightfoot box set, just get these. These audios are great. You will not regret it. Just get all of them. Listen to them all. I think the only ones I didn't fully enjoy were the ones that came about due to circumstances where they essentially turned them into audiobooks rather than full cast adventures, which I get the circumstances, but it is a slightly more frustrating product, but it is a victim of circumstances. But this, great. Sadly, the only box set of theirs I have, but I'm really glad to have it. The War Master. How could I not include this set? This is such a good range. Hold on. I went too long without eating cake. This is great. It's kind of sad that they had to work around this because they only thought they had one set, so they kind of chopped it off to only exist within this set. But it works really well. And the other sets are also really good. This is just a great introduction to the character. Derek Jacobi was my favorite TV master at the time, because I started with New Who. I had seen a lot of classic Who by this point, but even still, Derek Jacobi just did so good. And even with the limited screen time he had, that I knew he needed more, and this provided it, and he has done great with it. This is really good, and this is a good set. Okay, so that's all my Doctor Who stuff. It's sometimes easy to forget. Big Finish does do more than just Doctor Who stuff and spin-offs. They have other ranges. I've bought lots of them and enjoyed them generally. Well, first let me show you one other thing that they have here before I get to my favorite non-Doctor Who thing. That is The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. This is really good. I've actually read the original book now since then, and just hearing a different take on this than the 1939 film that has overwhelmed everyone's perceptions of Oz. It's fascinating to hear this. I really enjoyed this. Am I partially choosing this because I'm from Kansas? Yes. Yes, I am. And also Wicked came out? Yes. Yes, I am. I also just love the artwork on this, how it's nice and different, and I think it really works as an Oz adaptation. Now, I'm putting aside cake for this. It's time to show you my favorite non-Doctor Who thing that they've done. And that is this. The Stargate audios. Stargate is an excellent science fiction show from America, and I really enjoyed it, and I was so happy to hear that they did audios. And for a long time, Big Finish had lost the right to sell their own audios, so I collected them. All of them. Every single one. This took me so long. I am so happy to have them. I love this show. It's great that the audios exist and that they're here. I have them. It took me so long to collect these because I could only get them by CD. I found these box sets sealed. I bought these on eBay, brand new, still in plastic. I'm so happy. These are so good. These box sets are the best of them. I at some point need to just do a full review of all of these, but they're so good. I love these. They're great, great, great. Anyway, Stargate's great. I'm so glad they got Michael Shanks and Claudia Black in, and amongst the others that they had, Christopher Judge and whatnot. And these are some really legitimately good stories. I especially loved Gift of the Gods. Just a great audio, and so much stuff here is good. I also really enjoyed First Prime. Other reasons make it slightly more difficult to enjoy. Pathogen. Really good story that shows Janet Fraser in her element medically. It's always interesting to get an audio medical story things amongst other sci-fi stuff. So this, really nice. I think I went... Oh, here it is. Impressions. This is, I think, my favorite of the Stargate Atlantis stories. This is just really good and really well fleshes out a side character from the show, and just does really good stuff with a thing that was kind of a side thing of his painting stuff that he did. And this audio takes the painting stuff and magnifies it in a way that really works. And getting Nicholas Briggs to play the psychiatrist in this, I need to do a full review of this at some point because I have thoughts as to what this story is doing, and my belief that it does technically briefly intersect with Doctor Who, or at least a Doctor Who-like world, because, and I think using Nicholas Briggs in there is evidence of that. It's so good. I love these. I'm so happy to have these. These are so hard to find. I spent so long buying these on eBay. But anyway, that's just... Anyway, I'm just getting gaga over these because I know no one else cares. So, anyway. Yeah, this is just a sampling of my favorite of the Doctor Who audios that have been done. And just celebrating the fact that I've listened to them all. It's just great to have this. So, yeah, this is going to be a pain to edit, but this was so fun to put together. It's just been nice to just ramble about audios I like, because I enjoy these. They're great. Doctor Who, I think, works exceptionally well on audio, and The ability for this to not just exist but thrive is excellent. So getting all of these in is just excellent. Yeah, the only trick with this is storage. It's going to be so hard to put these back after this. That's my celebration of Big Finish. Just a nice, fun rambling. I'm really rambling at this point. I don't know how to end videos. Thank you for listening to all of this. This is my longest video to date, without question. And it was somewhat planned. So, thank you. Bye. Okay, let's go make sure we're still recording, because gosh, it would be bad if I spent all this time talking about all these stories and it stopped recording. That would suck.